A glass exploded against the wall. A man's back slammed into the edge of a booth hard enough to crack the wood. Two hands grabbed his shirt and dragged him upright. The diner went dead silent. 8 men in leather cuts stood in a half circle around a corner booth, blocking the only way out. The biggest one leaned down and slammed both palms flat on the table. The plates jumped. The coffee spilled. A little girl sat across the booth. 7 years old, brown hair and two braids ketchup on her chin. She didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She looked straight at the big man and said 4 words. "Don't talk, Daddy." The man they'd just thrown into the booth was Dominic Carver, 3-time world kickboxing champion. 67 wins, 0 losses, 41 by knockout. And right now, he was listening to his daughter. What happened in the next 4 seconds turned that diner into a crime scene. But to understand why, you need to know how a retired fighter and a 7-year-old girl ended up in a roadside diner in the middle of nowhere with 8 bikers looking for blood. Stay with me on this. Dominic Carver hadn't thrown a competitive kick in 4 years. He'd retired after his 3rd title. Walked away clean. No brain damage, no debts, no grudges, just a quiet house in Tucson. A wife named Claire and a daughter named Iris who had his jawline and her mother's eyes. Now you need to understand something about Dom's career to understand what happened in that diner. He won his first world title at 24, knocked out a champion from Sao Paulo in the 2nd round with a head kick that still gets replayed on highlight reels. He defended that title 6 times, won his 2nd belt in a different weight class 2 years later, then moved up again and took a 3rd, 3 divisions, 3 titles, 67 fights, not 1 loss. The announcers used to call him the Ghost because he didn't just beat people. He dismantled them piece by piece, calm the whole time, never once losing his temper in the ring. That control, that patience, that was what made him dangerous. Not his speed, not his power. The fact that he never panicked. He walked away from all of it at 31. People thought he was crazy. He was still in his prime, still undefeated. Promoters offered him 7 figures for one more fight. He turned them all down. But there was more to it than promises to Claire. Something Dom never told the reporters or the promoters or even most of his training partners. He was terrified of becoming his father. Frank Carver had been a fighter too. Not a champion, not even close. But he had heavy hands and a mean streak, and he fought in bar and parking lots, in underground clubs where they didn't check for concussions. Frank won some, lost more. And when he came home after a loss, he brought the violence with him. Dom was 8 years old the first time he watched his father hit his mother. It was a Tuesday night. Frank had lost a fight in a warehouse south of Phoenix, came home drunk and angry. Dom's mother said something about dinner being cold. Frank backhanded her across the kitchen. Dom didn't think. He just moved, jumped between them. 70 pounds of skinny kid standing in front of a 200-pound man who just spent 3 rounds getting his face rearranged. Frank looked down at him, and for a second, Dom thought his father might stop, might see what he was doing, might remember he had a son. Then Frank hit him instead. Dom's mother pulled him away, held him in the bathroom while his nose bled into the sink. She whispered over and over, "You protected me, baby. You protected me." That was the night Dom learned 2 things. 1, he was willing to take a hit to keep someone safe. 2, violence didn't stay in the ring. It followed you home. It infected everything. Frank left when Dom was 9, just didn't come home one night. Dom's mother never talked about it, never filed for divorce, just raised Dom alone in a 1-bedroom apartment and worked double shifts at a diner to keep the lights on. Dom started training when he was 12, found a gym that let him sweep floors in exchange for lessons. By 15, he was winning amateur tournaments. By 18, he'd gone pro. By 24, he was a world champion. In every single fight, every single round, he fought with one thought in his head. I am not my father. I will not be my father. That's why he retired, because he'd seen what the sport did to men who stayed too long. Seen the brain damage, the rage, the way they'd snap at their kids over nothing, the way they'd look at their wives with fists already clenched. Dom had made Claire a promise on their wedding day. I will never bring that home to you. I will never let our children see what I saw. And he'd kept that promise, right up until the day Claire got sick. It was fast. 8 months from diagnosis to funeral, pancreatic cancer stage 4. The kind where the doctors don't talk about treatment plans. They talk about making her comfortable. Iris was 5 when she watched her mother's coffin go into the ground. She stood next to Dom in a black dress that was too big for her, held his hand, didn't cry, just watched as they lowered Claire into the earth and covered her with dirt. Dom cried. He cried at the funeral, and he cried in the car on the way home, and he cried in the shower where Iris couldn't hear him. He cried until there was nothing left, until he was just empty. Iris didn't cry at all. After the funeral, she stopped talking. Not completely. She'd answer questions. She'd say yes and no, and I'm fine. But the long sentences, the stories she used to tell about imaginary kingdoms and dragons and princesses, the songs she'd make up in the bathtub, all of that stopped. Dom tried everything. Therapists, art classes, a grief counselor who specialized in children. Nothing worked. Iris was polite. She was cooperative. She just didn't talk. It was like she'd decided that words were expensive, and she was done spending them on anything that didn't matter. 2 years went by like that. Dom working construction jobs during the day, coming home to a quiet house where his daughter drew pictures and ate dinner and went to bed without saying more than 10 words. He'd sit on the edge of her bed and read to her. Chapter books about wizards and adventures, and she'd listen, but she wouldn't talk back. One night, about 6 months before the diner, Dom was cleaning out Claire's things. He'd been putting it off. Couldn't bring himself to box up her clothes, her books, the little things she'd kept on the nightstand. But the house felt like a museum, like he was living in a memorial instead of a home. He found a notebook in the back of her closet. Claire's handwriting, pages and pages of it. Lists, thoughts, things she wanted to remember to tell Iris when she got older. One entry stopped him cold. I told Iris today that strong people choose their words carefully, that talking just to fill silence is a waste. I wanted her to know that being quiet doesn't mean being weak. I think she understood. Maybe too well. Dom sat on the floor of the closet and read that line over and over. Claire had been preparing Iris, teaching her how to be strong in the only way she knew how. And Iris, brilliant and stubborn and too smart for her own good, had taken it literally. She wasn't broken. She was choosing. Dom closed the notebook, made a decision right there on the closet floor. He couldn't keep living in this house, couldn't keep walking past Claire's pictures every day, couldn't keep waiting for Iris to go back to being the girl she was before. They needed to leave, start over, somewhere new, somewhere Claire had always wanted to go. He sold the house in Tucson, packed what fit in his pickup truck, told Iris they were driving to California, Santa Monica, 3 blocks from the beach. Claire had grown up there, used to tell stories about falling asleep to the sound of the waves. She'd always wanted to take Iris there. Iris didn't argue. She just climbed into the passenger seat and buckled herself in, brought her backpack full of crayons and a sketchbook. Ready to go. They left on a Tuesday morning, the same day of the week Claire had died 2 years earlier. Dom didn't plan it that way, just realized it as he pulled out of the driveway. The first day was quiet. Long stretches of highway through New Mexico. Iris drew in her sketchbook. Dom listened to old country songs on the radio. Merle Haggard, Willie Nelson, the stuff Claire used to play on Sunday mornings. They stopped at a Motel 6 somewhere outside Albuquerque. 2 beds, a TV that only got 3 channels. Iris took a shower and came out in her pajamas with her hair dripping. She sat on her bed and drew while Dom flipped through channels. He glanced over. She was drawing a family. 3 people, a man, a woman, and a small girl. The woman had wings. "You drawing, Mommy?" Dom asked. Iris nodded. "She looks like an angel." Iris looked up at him. Her eyes were so much like Claire's it hurt. "She is an angel, Daddy. She's watching us." Dom's throat closed up. He nodded. Couldn't trust himself to speak. Iris went back to her drawing, added a few more lines. Then she said very quietly, "I miss her." It was the most words she'd said in one sitting in months. "I miss her too, baby." Iris put down her crayon, climbed off her bed and walked over to Dom's, crawled up next to him and put her head on his shoulder. They sat like that for a long time, watching a rerun of a game show neither of them cared about. The second day was better. Iris pointed out things through the window, a hawk on a fence post, a herd of cattle, a truck painted bright yellow with flames on the side. They crossed into Arizona just after noon. The landscape turned to desert, red rock and cactus and sky that went on forever. Iris pointed at a tall saguaro cactus. It had arms that stretched up and out like it was waving. They look strong, she said. Dom glanced at her. Yeah, because they don't need much, just sun and a little water. And they live for a really long time. Dom thought about that. You're right, they are strong. Like you, he looked at her. Baby, I'm not that strong. Mommy told me you were the strongest person she ever met. You just forgot for a while. Dom had to blink hard, keep his eyes on the road. They drove in silence for another hour. Then Iris said, Are we going to live by the ocean forever? I don't know, baby. We'll see how it goes. I think Mommy would like it. I think so too. By late afternoon, they were somewhere east of Barstow. The sun was starting to drop. Dom's back ached from sitting. His shoulders were tight. He saw a sign for a diner up ahead. Rosie's, faded paint, a parking lot that had seen better days. He pulled off the highway. The diner was half empty. A couple in a corner booth. A man at the counter reading a newspaper. A waitress who looked like she'd been pulling doubles since the 90s. Her name tag said Donna. She brought menus and called Iris sweetheart, and Iris almost smiled. Dom ordered a burger and fries for himself. Chicken tenders and a chocolate shake for Iris. Donna wrote it down and disappeared into the kitchen. Iris pulled out her crayons and started drawing on the paper placemat. Dom watched her. She was drawing a house. It had a red door and 2 windows and a tree in the yard. That the house we're going to live in? Dom asked. Iris shrugged. Maybe. I don't know what it looks like yet. Well, that's a good start. She added more details. A chimney, a mailbox. Then she drew a figure standing next to the tree. Tall, one arm raised like it was waving. Dom stared at it. Who's that? Iris didn't look up. Mommy. She's watching. The words hit him like a punch to the chest. He opened his mouth, closed it. Didn't know what to say. Before he could figure it out, the noise started outside. Engines, not car engines, motorcycle engines, a lot of them. Deep rattling thunder that shook the windows of the diner. Donna stopped pouring coffee. The couple in the corner looked at each other. The man at the counter folded his newspaper. 8 motorcycles pulled into the lot. Harleys, chrome and black leather. The riders wore matching cuts. The patches read Iron Reapers MC. Now here's the thing about outlaw motorcycle clubs. Most people think they're just tough guys who like bikes. That's like saying a hurricane is just a little wind. These clubs have territories, codes, hierarchies, and the Iron Reapers were one of the hardest chapters running through the California desert corridor. They came through the door like they owned the place, loud, laughing, shoving each other. The leader was a man everyone called Axel, big, 6'4", maybe 270, shaved head, hands like catcher's mitts. He had a scar running from his left ear to the corner of his mouth, and he wore it like a badge. Axel walked straight to the counter and slapped his palm down hard enough to rattle every glass in the rack. Coffee, he said, 8 cups. And whatever food you got that's hot. Donna nodded and moved fast. She knew the drill. Serve quick. Don't make eye contact. Don't give them a reason. The bikers spread out across the diner. 2 of them sat in the booth next to Dom and Iris. One of them knocked Dom's arm, reaching for the ketchup. Didn't say sorry. Dom didn't react. He just moved his arm and kept eating. Iris looked up from her drawing. She watched the bikers the way a cat watches a dog walk past. Not scared, just very, very still, very aware. For about 10 minutes, nothing happened. The bikers ate. They talked loud. They cursed. Axel told a story about a bar fight in Needles that made his guys laugh so hard that one of them spit out his coffee. It was almost normal, almost fine. Then Axel noticed the drawing. Iris had finished the house and started a new picture. This one was a man, tall, standing with his fists up. She'd drawn it in red crayon. Axel leaned over from the next booth and squinted at it. That's your daddy, he said. Iris didn't answer. Hey, I'm talking to you, little girl. Dom put down his burger. She's shy, he said. Calm, even. She doesn't talk much. Axel looked at Dom for the first time. Really looked at him. Dom was not a small man, 6 feet even, 185. But he was lean, wiry, the kind of build that looked unimpressive in street clothes. But Axel had been in enough fights to know what to look for. And he saw it. The way Dom had moved when he put down his burger. Not reaching, placing, with control. The way his shoulders had turned just slightly to square up without seeming to. The way his hands stayed relaxed on the table but ready. Fingers loose, no tension. That was the tell. Street fighters clenched their fists when they got nervous. Real fighters kept them soft until the moment they needed them. Axel had seen that before, in gyms, in rings, in men who'd trained so long that fighting wasn't something they did. It was something they were. And he wanted to see what this quiet man could do. Shy Axel repeated. He grinned. That's cute. He reached across and picked up Iris's drawing. Held it up for his guys. Look at this. Kid drew a little tough guy. That's supposed to be you, Daddy Dom's voice stayed flat. Give her the drawing back. Or what? Now here's the thing. Dom had spent 20 years learning how to read a room, how to measure distance, how to calculate how many seconds it would take to close a gap. And right now, every number in his head was telling him the same thing. Walk away, pick up your daughter, pay the bill, leave. He'd been in this situation before. Not exactly this, but close enough. A bar in Bangkok, a club in Moscow, a restaurant in Sao Paulo where a man twice his size decided Dom's championship belt meant he had something to prove. Every time Dom had walked away, and every time the other guy had made it impossible. Axel was making it impossible right now. Axel crumpled the drawing, dropped it on the floor. Then he leaned in close to Iris and said, Your daddy's not tough, sweetheart. He's just quiet. There's a difference, Abon. Iris looked at Axel, then she looked at her father, and she said very softly, Don't talk, Daddy. She wasn't scared. Believe me, that's not what that was. She'd seen her father train for years, sat on the gym floor watching him spar with men twice her size. She knew exactly what he could do, and she was telling him, Don't waste words. Don't warn them. Axel laughed. Don't talk, Daddy. That's adorable. He put his hand on Iris's head. Not hard, but he touched her. He put his hand on a 7-year-old girl's head without her permission, and he did it to prove a point. Dom moved. He didn't stand up slowly. He didn't push back his chair. 1 second he was sitting. The next second his right hand had Axel's wrist and his left elbow was driving into the side of Axel's jaw. The sound was sharp and wet. Axel's eyes rolled, his knees buckled. Dom guided him down to the floor. Controlled. Precise. The whole thing took about a second and a half. The biker next to the booth lunged. Dom sidestepped, caught the man's arm, used his own momentum to send him face first into the edge of the counter. His forehead hit the laminate and he went limp. The second biker threw a punch. Dom slipped it, drove a knee into the man's midsection, followed with a short right cross that put him on the ground. The man curled up and stayed there. 3 men, 4 seconds. That's what 20 years of training looks like when the leash comes off. The other 5 bikers were on their feet, chairs scraped back, fists clenched. But they just watched their 3 toughest guys go down without landing a single hit. The math was right there in front of them. Nobody moved. Dom stood in the middle of the diner, breathing steady, not winded, not shaking. He looked at each of them one at a time, slow, calm, the same way he used to look at opponents across the ring before a fight. It was a question without words. Who's next? Nobody answered it. He turned around, sat back down in the booth, picked up a napkin and wiped a spot of blood off his elbow. You okay? He asked Iris. She nodded. Dom flagged Donna. Can I get the check? And I'm sorry about the mess. Donna's hands were shaking when she brought the bill. Dom paid in cash, left a 40% tip. He picked up Iris's crayons, put them in her backpack, lifted her onto his hip. They walked past the bikers, out the front door, into the parking lot. The night air was cool and dry. Dom buckled Iris into her car seat. She didn't say anything. She just held her backpack on her lap and watched him through the window as he walked around to the driver's side. He paused for a second, flexed his right hand. The knuckles were sore, but nothing was broken. He got in, started the engine. It was over. The whole thing. Just a bad 10 minutes in a roadside diner that would make a good story someday. The kind of thing that happens and then doesn't happen again. Dom pulled out of the lot, turned onto the highway, pointed the truck west toward California. The road was empty, 2 lanes cutting straight through the desert with nothing on either side but sunnin and scrub and darkness. Iris fell asleep before they'd gone 5 miles. Dom adjusted the rearview mirror so he could see her face. She looked peaceful. He took a breath, loosened his grip on the steering wheel, let his shoulders drop. For the first time in hours, he felt his pulse settle back to normal. The worst was behind them. Then he checked the rear view again and his stomach dropped. Headlights, a lot of them, staggered, low to the ground, stretched across both lanes of the highway behind him. Motorcycles, coming fast. See, here's what Dom didn't know. While he was paying the check and picking up crayons, Axel was in the bathroom making a phone call. Not to the cops, to a man named Vince. Full name Vincent Maddox, president of the Iron Reapers Mother Chapter. The man who'd built the club from 12 guys in a garage to a network that ran across 3 states. And Vince had one rule that everyone knew. You don't embarrass the club. You don't put a Reaper on the floor in front of civilians and walk away. That's not a bar fight, that's a message. And messages get answered. 12 bikes, closing fast. Dom pushed the truck to 80, but the bikes matched him easily. They spread out behind him in a V formation, covering both lanes. 2 of them pulled alongside his truck, 1 on each side. The riders didn't look at him. They just rode. Patient, controlled. This wasn't road rage. This was an operation. Dom's mind was running through options. Outrun them. Impossible. The truck topped out at 90 and those bikes could do 140 without trying. Call the cops. His phone was dead. He'd forgotten to charge it at the diner. Pull over. On an empty highway. Bad idea. No witnesses, no lights, nothing but sand and darkness for miles. Iris stirred in the back seat. She sat up, looked out the rear window at the wall of headlights, said nothing. She just looked at her father in the mirror and waited. A mile ahead, Dom saw it. A gas station, lit up against the desert dark. 2 pumps, a small store, a patch of gravel. The fluorescent lights hummed against the empty night. It wasn't much, but it was public. It had lights, and it was the only option he had. He pulled into the gas station. The bikes followed. They circled the lot once, slow, then parked in a line, engines off. 12 men dismounted. They didn't rush. They didn't shout. They stood by their bikes and waited. One man walked forward. Vince. He was smaller than Axel, maybe 5'10", lean, silver hair pulled back in a ponytail. He wore wire-rimmed glasses and a plain black leather jacket. He looked like a college professor who'd taken a very wrong turn somewhere in the 70s. He walked to Dom's window and tapped on the glass. Polite, like a neighbor borrowing sugar. Dom rolled it down. Dominic Carver, Vince said. Not a question. He knew. 3-time world champion. Retired. I looked you up while I was riding. He smiled. It was a thin smile. The kind that doesn't reach the eyes. 67 professional fights. 67 wins. 41 by knockout. That's impressive. Dom said nothing. I also read that you retired 4 years ago, that you haven't fought since. And I'm wondering, a man who hasn't thrown a punch in 4 years, is he still the same man who won those titles? Or is he something less? Now, Dom still said nothing. He knew what Vince was doing, testing, probing, looking for fear. My boy Axel is in an ambulance right now. Broken jaw. 2 of his guys are riding to the ER with busted ribs and a fractured orbital. That happened in my territory, in front of people. He paused. You understand what that means. He touched my daughter. I heard. And I'm not saying he was right. Axel's always been stupid. But stupid or not, he's mine. And you made my club look weak in front of a diner full of strangers. That's not something I can let go. Vince took off his glasses, cleaned them on his shirt, put them back on. He did it slowly, like a man who had all the time in the world. And in that moment, he did. Here's how this works, Vince said. I've got a man named Cade. He rides with the Mother Chapter. Before he rode with us, he did 2 tours in Iraq. Marine Corps martial arts instructor. Taught guys how to kill people with their hands. He's the best fighter in my club, and I'm including Axel in that count. Dom watched him. You and Cade go right here, right now. Clean fight, no weapons. You win, you drive away. Nobody follows you. Nobody touches your little girl. You have my word. And my word is the only law out here. He glanced at the truck. You lose, I take the truck. the keys, whatever cash you've got, and you and your daughter walk to the nearest town. It's 11 miles east. She's 7 years old. Then I suggest you don't lose. Dom looked in the rearview mirror. Iris was awake. She was sitting up in her car seat, watching him with those big brown eyes that looked so much like Claire's. It hurt. Daddy, she said. Yeah, baby, don't talk. He understood. She'd been saying it all night, and he'd been hearing it wrong. She wasn't saying, don't talk to the bikers. She was saying, don't talk at all. Don't negotiate. Don't explain. Don't reason. Don't beg. Words were for people who had options. Right now, Dom only had one option. So stop talking and do the thing you were built to do. Dom got out of the truck. Cade was already waiting. He'd stepped out from the line of bikers and stood in the middle of the gravel lot under the gas station lights. He was about Dom's height but thicker, heavier through the shoulders and chest. He stood with his weight centered, hands loose at his sides, military stance. This was a man who'd been to real fights, not bar fights, not cage fights, fights where the loser didn't get up. Dom rolled his neck, shook out his hands, took a breath. The desert air was cold now, the kind of cold that comes fast when the sun drops. Dom could see his breath, could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead, could feel the gravel under his boots. Cade didn't say anything, didn't posture, didn't try to stare Dom down. He just waited. Professional. Dom had fought men like this before, men who trained not for sport, but for survival. They moved different, thought different, and they didn't care about points or rounds or judges. They cared about going home alive. Vince stepped back, gave them space. The other bikers formed a loose circle. Nobody was cheering, nobody was talking. This wasn't entertainment, this was business. Dom glanced at the truck one more time. Iris was pressed against the window, her small hand flat against the glass. She wasn't crying, wasn't calling for him, just watching. He turned back to Cade. Cade moved first, fast for a big man. He closed the distance in 2 steps and threw a straight right that would have ended it if it landed. Dom slipped left, barely, felt the wind from the punch pass his ear. He countered with a low kick to Cade's lead thigh. It landed clean, solid, the kind of kick that should make a man's leg buckle. Cade didn't flinch. Now here's the thing about fighting someone with real training. With a street fighter, you know what's coming. Haymakers, tackles, sloppy headlocks. You can handle that with technique. But a trained fighter takes away your advantages one at a time, like a chess player removing pieces. Cade feinted a jab and shot a takedown. Quick, low, hands reaching for Dom's hips. Dom had been defending takedowns since he was 19. He sprawled, drove his hips down, hit Cade with a short uppercut as he came up. That one Cade felt. He stepped back, reset, wiped his mouth. For about 30 seconds they circled, testing, measuring. Dom threw a combination, jibika, cross, low kick. Cade blocked the first 2 and checked the kick. He came back with a hook that caught Dom on the temple. Dom's vision flickered. His left ear rang. That was a hard shot, harder than anything he'd taken in competition. Cade pressed forward, another hook followed by a knee. Dom blocked the hook, but the knee caught him in the ribs. Something cracked. Pain shot through his left side. Sharp. Electric. Dom backed up. His breath came short. Every inhale felt like broken glass. Cade kept coming. Another punch, another. Dom covered up, absorbed shots on his forearms, waited for an opening. He could hear Iris in the truck, not crying, not screaming, just the sound of her small hand pressing against the window, the squeak of skin on glass. He didn't look, couldn't afford to. But knowing she was there watching changed something in his chest, tightened something that had been loose since Claire died. This is where most people would have broken. The pain, the pressure, 12 bikers watching, his daughter watching, a desert road with no help for miles. Most people would have dropped their hands, or tried to wrestle, or just given up. Dom did none of those things. He'd been hurt worse in training. He'd fought with cracked ribs before, in a title fight in Tokyo, and he'd won that one in the 5th round. Pain was information. That's what his first coach used to say. Tells you what's broken and what still works. Right now, his legs still worked. His right hand still worked. And his timing was still there. Buried under 4 years of rust, but still there. Cade threw another straight right, same punch he'd opened with. And this time, Dom didn't slip. He stepped into it. He let the punch graze his forehead and fired his right elbow straight into Cade's nose. The cartilage collapsed. Blood went everywhere, hot, wet. Cade staggered. Dom followed with a left hook to the body, right where the ribs meet the liver. Cade bent at the waist. Dom brought his right knee up into Cade's chin with every pound of force his body could generate. Cade went down. Not slowly, not in stages. He went down like someone had cut his strings. His back hit the gravel and he didn't move. His eyes were open, but they weren't seeing anything. His chest rose and fell. He was alive, but he was done. The gas station went silent. 12 bikers. Nobody said a word. The only sound was the hum of the fluorescent lights and Dominic Carver trying to breathe through broken ribs. Dom stood over Cade, blood on his knuckles, blood on his forehead where Cade's punch had split the skin. His left side screamed with every breath. At least one broken rib, maybe two. His right hand was swelling already. He'd feel all of this tomorrow. He'd feel it for weeks. But right now, standing in that gravel lot with the desert wind pulling at his shirt, he felt something else. Something he hadn't felt in 4 years. He felt like himself, not the construction worker, not the single dad trying to hold it together, not the man who'd spent 2 years walking through his own life like a ghost. He felt like the fighter he used to be, the one who'd stepped into rings in Bangkok and Moscow and Sao Paulo and walked out with his hand raised. And it wasn't the violence that did it. It wasn't the adrenaline or the victory or the dominance. It was the purpose. For 4 years, he'd been drifting, going through the motions, getting up, going to work, coming home, feeding Iris, putting her to bed, doing it all again the next day. But tonight he had a reason, a singular, crystal clear reason to be exactly who he was. Protect Iris. Everything else fell away. The grief, the doubt, the fear that he was failing her, the terror that he was becoming his father. None of that mattered. All that mattered was standing between his daughter and the men who wanted to hurt her. And he'd done it. He turned and looked at Vince. Vince stood with his arms crossed. He looked at Cade on the ground, looked at Dom. Then he did something nobody expected. He clapped. Slow. 3 times. Well, Vince said, that's that. He walked to the line of bikes and said something to his men. One of them jogged to a saddlebag and came back with a first aid kit and a bag of ice. He brought them to Dom without being asked. Vince approached again. This time he didn't stop at arm's length. He walked right up to Dom, close enough that Dom could smell the leather and road dust on him. Your daughter, Vince said. She told you not to talk. She did. Smart kid. He paused. I had a daughter. She's grown now. Lives in Portland. Doesn't call, Mom. Hasn't called in 2 years, actually. I don't blame her. This life doesn't leave room for the people who matter. By the time you figure that out, they're gone. He looked toward the truck where Russ was watching through the window. She's the reason you fight the way you do. You know that, right? You weren't fighting for a title tonight. That's why you hit different. A man fighting for money hits hard. A man fighting for his kid hits like something else entirely. Dom didn't answer that. He pressed the ice against his ribs and winced. Go to California, Vince said. Get her that place near the beach. Nobody from my club will bother you. You've got my word. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a fold of cash. Held it out. For the gas and the trouble. Dom looked at the money. I don't need that. I know you don't. Take it anyway. For the girl. Dom took it, not because he needed it, because refusing a peace offering from a man like Vince was its own kind of stupidity. And Dom was done being stupid for one night. Vince stepped back, looked at Dom one more time. You're a good father, he said. Better than I ever was. Don't let her forget that. Then he turned and walked back to his bike. The other bikers followed. They mounted up. Engines roared to life. And one by one they pulled out of the gas station and disappeared east into the dark. Dom stood there until the sound of the engines faded completely. Until it was just him and the hum of the lights and the cold desert wind. Then he walked back to the truck. His hands were shaking now. The adrenaline was leaving and everything hurt. The ribs, the knuckles, the cut above his eye. His whole body felt like it had been put through a meat grinder. He opened the driver's side door, sat down. The seat felt like the most comfortable thing in the world. Iris reached forward from her car seat and put her small hand on his shoulder. Daddy. Yeah, baby, you can talk now. Dom laughed. It hurt his ribs so bad his eyes watered, but he laughed anyway. A real laugh. The first one in a long time. Maybe since Claire. He pulled onto the highway. The motorcycles were already gone. Taillights fading east while Dom drove west. The desert stretched ahead of them, white and dark and empty. And somewhere out there past the sand and the scrub was the Pacific Ocean. Iris would hear the waves at night. She'd start a new school. She'd draw more pictures of houses with red doors. And maybe one day she'd live in one. Dom drove with one hand on the wheel and the other pressed against his ribs. The pain was settling in now, deep, grinding. Every bump in the road sent a jolt through his side. But he kept driving because that's what you do. You keep moving forward even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. He thought about Claire, about the last thing she'd said to him before the morphine took her under for good. She'd grabbed his hand and said, "Don't let her go quiet. Dom, she's got my voice in there somewhere. You just have to be patient," he'd promised. And for 2 years he'd failed. Iris had stayed quiet and Dom hadn't known how to reach her. But tonight she'd spoken. Not much, but the right words at the right time. And Dom was starting to understand that Iris's silence wasn't grief, it was strength. She wasn't broken. She was choosing. Choosing when to speak and when to hold back. Just like her father in the ring. Iris was quiet for a long time. The highway hummed beneath them. The stars were out now. Thousands of them. More than you could ever see in the city. Then somewhere past Victorville, Iris said something that broke Dominic Carver in half. Mom used to tell me that when you fight, you don't make any sound. Dom's hands tightened on the wheel. She said that's how she always knew you were serious. When you went quiet, Dom's throat closed. He tried to swallow. Couldn't. She said the quiet ones are the strongest because they don't waste anything. Not their words, not their energy, not their love. Dom's eyes blurred. He blinked and felt tears run down both cheeks. He hadn't cried since the funeral. Hadn't been able to. The grief had been stuck somewhere deep in his chest, like a fist that wouldn't unclench. But hearing Claire's words come out of Iris's mouth, in Iris's voice, with Iris's calm, it broke something loose. He pulled the truck to the shoulder, put it in park, and he let it come. All of it. The year of silence, the months of holding it together, the funeral where he stood in a black suit and shook hands and said thank you for coming 100 times and never once let himself fall apart. Because Iris was watching and he needed to be strong. The nights lying awake wondering if he was doing it right, if he was enough, if Iris would grow up okay without her mother. The mornings waking up and forgetting for just a second that Claire was gone, reaching across the bed and finding it empty. The guilt, the crushing, suffocating guilt that he was still here and she wasn't. It all came out, and Dom didn't try to stop it, didn't try to hide it. He just sat in the truck on the side of a dark highway and cried like he hadn't cried since he was 8 years old and his father hit him for the first time. Iris unbuckled her car seat, climbed into the front, wrapped her arms around his neck. Her hair smelled like apple shampoo. Her small frame pressed against him felt like home. Everything good in his world distilled into this 7-year-old girl. "Don't talk, Daddy," she whispered. But this time she was smiling. "Just drive." So he did. He wiped his eyes, pulled back onto the highway, drove west into the dark. No radio, no words, just the hum of the engine and the stars over the desert and a 7-year-old girl who understood silence better than anyone he'd ever met. They drove through the night. Iris fell asleep again around midnight, curled up in the passenger seat with her head on a pillow. Dom kept going. His ribs screamed, his hand throbbed. But he didn't stop. He reached the coast just as the sun was coming up. The highway curved, and suddenly there it was. The Pacific Ocean, endless and blue and shimmering in the early light. Dom pulled over at a scenic overlook, got out, walked to the edge. The waves rolled in, steady, rhythmic, like breathing. He stood there and let the sound wash over him, let it fill the empty spaces, let it remind him that the world was bigger than his grief, that there was still beauty, still hope, still reasons to keep going. Iris woke up and climbed out of the truck, walked over and stood next to him. She didn't say anything, just took his hand and looked out at the water. It sounds like breathing, she said finally. Yeah, Dom said. It does. Do you think Mommy can hear it? Dom looked down at her. I think Mommy's always been able to hear it. I think she's been waiting for us to get here. Iris nodded. Like that made perfect sense. They stood there for a while, father and daughter, watching the waves, listening to the sound of the ocean breathing. Then Iris said, can we go find our house now? Yeah, baby, we can do that. They got back in the truck and drove into Santa Monica. It was early. The streets were quiet. Most of the shops weren't open yet. Dom drove slowly, looking, trying to remember the streets from when Claire used to describe them. She'd grown up 3 blocks from the beach, in a neighborhood where the houses were small and close together, and you could smell the salt in the air. He found it on the 3rd pass, a small apartment building, 2 stories, pale yellow paint, a for rent sign in the window. Dom parked, got out, knocked on the door. A woman answered, older, maybe 70. She looked at Dom's bruised face and swollen hand and didn't say anything about it. I'm looking for a place, Dom said. 2-bedroom if you have it. The woman studied him, looked past him at the truck where Iris was waiting. I have 1 unit available, she said. 2nd floor. It's small, but it's clean, and it's 3 blocks from the beach. Can I see it? The woman got her keys, led him upstairs, opened the door to a small apartment. Hardwood floors, big windows, a tiny balcony that faced west. Dom walked to the balcony, stepped out, and there it was, the ocean. You couldn't see it from here. The other buildings blocked the view, but you could hear it, that sound, like breathing. I'll take it, Dom said. The woman blinked. Don't you want to know how much it come? Dom pulled out the fold of cash Vince had given him, counted out first month, last month, and deposit without asking the price. The woman took it, looked at him for a long moment. You running from something, she asked. No, Dom said. Running towards something. The woman nodded, like she understood. You can move in today if you want. I'll have the lease ready this afternoon. Dom went back to the truck, opened the door. We found it, baby. Iris's eyes went wide. Really, really? Come see. He lifted her out, carried her upstairs, set her down in the middle of the empty living room. Iris turned in a slow circle, taking it all in. Then she walked to the balcony. Dom followed. She stood on her tiptoes, listened. I can hear it, she said. The ocean. It does sound like breathing, just like Mommy said. Iris looked up at him. Are we home now? Yeah, baby. We're home. They spent the first day unpacking. Dom didn't have much. Clothes, a few boxes of kitchen stuff, Iris's art supplies, a photo album Claire had kept. The apartment came furnished. A couch, a table, 2 beds. It wasn't much, but it was enough. That night, Dom made spaghetti. They ate on the balcony, listened to the ocean. Iris was quiet during dinner, but it was a comfortable quiet, not the hollow silence of the past 2 years. This was different. This was peace. After dinner, Iris took a bath. Dom heard her humming, actually humming, a song Claire used to sing. He stood outside the bathroom door and listened, and felt something crack open in his chest, something that had been locked up tight. When Iris came out, she was wearing her pajamas. Her hair was wet. She walked over to Dom and hugged him. Thank you, Daddy. For what? For bringing me here, for keeping me safe. Dom's eyes burned. You never have to thank me for that. She pulled back, looked up at him with those eyes that were so much like Claire's. Mommy told me something before she died, Iris said. She told me that you were going to be sad for a while, and that I needed to stay strong for both of us until you remembered how. Dom couldn't speak. I think you remember now, Iris said. She hugged him again, then went to her room. Dom stood in the hallway for a long time, just breathing, just being. The next day, he enrolled Iris in Ocean Park Elementary, walked her to the classroom. She was nervous. He could tell, but she didn't say it. At the door, she turned to him. I got this, Daddy. He smiled. I know you do. He waited outside, worried, wondering if she'd be okay, if the other kids would be kind on, if the teacher would understand that Iris didn't talk much, but she was smart. So smart. When 3 o'clock came, he was there waiting. Iris walked out with another girl. They were both carrying drawings. The girl had red hair, freckles. She was talking a mile a minute. Iris was listening, smiling. "This is Rosie," Iris said when she reached Dom. "She likes to draw, too." Rosie waved. "Your daughter draws the best houses. She's going to teach me how to do the doors." Dom looked at Iris. She was smiling, actually smiling. "That's great," he said. They walked home, Rosie peeling off at the corner with a wave and a promise to see Iris tomorrow. "You made a friend," Dom said. Iris nodded. "She's nice. She talks a lot, but I don't mind." That night, Iris drew 3 pictures before bed. Houses, all of them with red doors. Dom worked construction for the first few weeks. Day jobs, roofing, drywall, anything that paid cash under the table while he got his contractor's license sorted out. His ribs healed slowly, 6 weeks before he could breathe without pain. He went to a clinic, no insurance, paid cab. The doctor took x-rays. "You fractured 2 ribs," the doctor said. "What happened?" "Fell off a ladder." The doctor looked at him over his glasses. "That's the worst lie I've heard today." Dom didn't respond. The doctor sighed. "They're healing okay, but you need to rest. No heavy lifting for another month." Dom nodded. Didn't tell him that he'd been lifting drywall sheets all week. At night after Iris went to bed, Dom did push-ups, sit-ups, shadowboxing in the living room, slow at first, testing the ribs, making sure they could hold. Iris caught him one night, came out of her room to get water, saw him moving through combinations in the dark. "Are you training again?" she asked. "No," Dom said, "just staying in shape. For you." Iris walked over, stood in front of him, looked up. "You never stopped being strong, Daddy. You just couldn't see it for a while." Then she went back to bed. A few weeks later, Dom was at the park with Iris. She was drawing. He was sitting on a bench, watching the ocean in the distance. A kid ran past, maybe 10 years old. Skinny, scared. 3 older kids were chasing him, bigger kids. They caught him by the swings, started pushing him. Dom stood up. He walked over, slow, calm. The bigger kids saw him coming, saw his size, saw something in the way he moved. They backed off. "You okay?" Dom asked the skinny kid. The kid nodded, wiped his eyes, tried not to cry. "They always pick on me," the kid said. Dom knelt down, looked the kid in the eye. "You want to learn how to stand up for yourself?" The kid blinked. "Like what, karate?" "No," Dom said. "Self-defense, practical stuff, how to avoid a fight, and how to end one if you can't. My mom can't afford classes. I'm not talking about classes. I'm talking about free. You, me, twice a week, right here." The kid's eyes went wide. "Really? Really?" The kid's name was Tyler. He showed up 2 days later. Dom taught him how to stand, how to keep his hands up, how to move his feet, how to see a punch coming. Nothing fancy, just basics. Tyler told his friends. 3 more kids showed up the next week. Dom taught them all. Iris watched from her spot on the grass, drawing, listening, learning. After 2 months, Dom had 8 kids showing up regularly. Parents started asking questions. Who was this guy teaching their kids to fight? Dom explained, he wasn't teaching them to fight, he was teaching them to protect themselves, to be aware, to be confident. One of the parents was a real estate agent. She told Dom about a space, an old dance studio, empty for 6 months. The owner was looking for a tenant. Dom went to see it, small, needed work, but it had good bones, hardwood floors, mirrors on one wall, high ceilings. How much, Dom asked. The owner looked at him, at the fading bruises on his knuckles, the scar above his eye that hadn't quite healed. What are you going to use it for? Teaching kids, Dom said. Self-defense. The owner thought about it. I'll give you the first 3 months free. You fix it up. Make it nice, then we'll talk about rent. Dom spent 2 weeks cleaning, painting. He hung a heavy bag in the corner, bought mats for the floor. He needed a name, something simple, something that made sense. Iris came up with it. She was sitting in the corner doing her homework while Dom worked. She looked up and said, "You should call it the quiet room." Dom stopped, looked at her. Why? Because you teach them to be strong without yelling. You teach them that the quiet ones see the most. Dom smiled. The quiet room. Yeah, that's perfect. He painted the name on the window. Simple letters, black on white. The quiet room, self-defense for kids. He opened the doors the next week. 8 kids showed up the first day, 12 the second. By the end of the month, he had 20. He didn't charge much, just enough to cover rent and equipment. If a family couldn't afford it, he let their kid train for free. Iris helped. She handed out water bottles, organized the equipment. Sometimes she'd demonstrate a technique for the younger kids, show them how to stand, how to move. The kids loved her, called her Coach Iris, even though she never said much. She didn't need to. They watched her, learned from her, respected her quiet strength. Dom watched his daughter and saw Claire, saw the patience, the kindness, the calm, but he also saw himself, the discipline, the focus, the understanding that strength wasn't about being loud. 6 months passed, then a year. Iris turned 8, started talking more. Not a lot, but enough. She had 3 close friends now, Rosie and 2 others, Maya and Colt. They came to the gym sometimes, watched Iris help, asked if they could learn too. Dom taught them. One afternoon, Iris asked if they could buy a house. Dom was locking up the gym. Iris was waiting by the door with her backpack. A house with a red door, she asked. Dom smiled. Someday, baby. When I save up enough. Iris nodded. Okay, I can wait. But Dom started looking, putting money aside, not much. But every week he put something in an envelope, marked it Red Door House. 2 years after they arrived in Santa Monica, Dom had enough. He found a small house 4 blocks from the beach. 2 bedrooms, a tiny yard. It needed work. The paint was peeling. The porch sagged, but it had potential. And it had a front door. Dom bought it, signed the papers, got the keys. He took Iris to see it on a Saturday morning. She walked through every room, touched the walls, looked out the windows. When she got to the front door, she stopped. Can I paint it? Dom smiled. What color? Iris looked at him, like he'd asked the stupidest question in the world. Red, Daddy, obviously red. They went to the hardware store, bought paint, brushes, drop cloths. Iris painted the door herself. Dom helped with the high parts, but she did most of it. Careful, precise, taking her time. When they finished, they stood back and looked at it. A small house with a red door, just like in all her drawings. Iris took Dom's hand. We made it, she said, just like Mommy wanted. Dom looked down at her. Yeah, baby, we did. They moved in the next week. Not much to move. They didn't have a lot, but what they had was theirs. The first night in the new house, Iris hung a picture in the living room. The one from the photo album. Claire and Dom and baby Iris at the beach, all 3 of them smiling. Iris stood in front of it for a long time. We made it, Mommy, she whispered. We're home. Dom stood in the doorway, watching, listening, and for the first time since Claire died, he felt like he could breathe. 5 years passed. Iris turned 14, high school freshman, still quiet, still careful with her words, but different now, confident, sure of herself in a way that made Dom proud every time he looked at her. She had friends, real friends, not just acquaintances, girls who understood that Iris didn't need to fill every silence, who valued her observations when she chose to share them, who knew that when Iris spoke it was worth listening. The quiet room had grown, 50 students now, ages 7 to 16. Dom taught 5 classes a week, sometimes 6. He'd hired an assistant coach last year, a former MMA fighter named Derek who'd retired after too many concussions. Good guy, patient with the kids, understood what Dom was trying to build. The gym wasn't about creating fighters. It was about creating confidence, teaching kids how to stand up straight when someone bigger tried to make them small, how to see trouble coming, how to avoid it when possible, how to end it when necessary. Dom taught them the same thing Iris had taught him, that silence isn't weakness, that the person who talks the least often sees the most, that knowing when not to speak is just as important as knowing how to fight. He'd kept the house with the red door, paid it off 3 years ago. Iris had her own room, decorated exactly how she wanted. Posters of national parks, sketches she'd drawn, a shelf full of books about art and architecture. She still drew houses, but now she drew other things too. People, landscapes, abstract designs that Dom didn't always understand but recognized as beautiful. She wanted to study art therapy in college, help kids who'd lost parents, kids who'd gone quiet the way she had. She'd already started volunteering at a grief counseling center, 2 afternoons a week, sitting with younger kids, drawing with them, not pushing them to talk, just being present. Dom watched her become the person Claire had always known she'd be. Strong, compassionate, deliberate in everything she did. And he was proud, so proud it sometimes hurt. But there were hard days too. Days when Dom looked in the mirror and saw his father's eyes looking back. Days when the anger came up out of nowhere. When a student wouldn't focus or a parent complained about something trivial, and Dom felt his fists clench, felt the old violence rising. He'd never hit anyone, never raised his hand to a student or Iris or anyone who didn't deserve it. But the impulse was there, the genetic memory of Frank Carver's rage, waiting, patient, ready to surface. Dom fought it the only way he knew how. He stayed aware, watched himself. When he felt the anger building, he'd step outside, walk around the block, breathe until it passed. Most of the time it worked, but one night it didn't. It was a Thursday, late class, 6 students, teenagers, 15, 16 years old. Dom was teaching them defense against multiple attackers. Complex stuff. Required focus, discipline. One kid wasn't paying attention. 17-year-old named Jake. Good kid usually. But tonight he was on his phone, texting, laughing at something on the screen. Dom told him once to put it away. Jake nodded, didn't put it away. Dom told him again. Jake said sorry, kept texting. Dom felt something shift in his chest, a tightness, a heat. Jake, he said, third time, phone. Now, Jake looked up, rolled his eyes, whatever, man. This class is boring anyway. And something in Dom snapped. He didn't hit the kid, didn't touch him, but he yelled, actually yelled, loud enough that his voice echoed off the walls, loud enough that every student in the room froze. Get out, Dom said. You want to waste my time, do it somewhere else. Get out of my gym. Jake's face went red. He grabbed his bag, walked out, slammed the door. The other students stared at Dom, shocked. They'd never seen him raise his voice, not once in 5 years. Dom stood there, breathing hard, fists clenched, and he realized what he'd done. He'd become Frank, not physically, not in the way that mattered most, but he'd lost control. Let the anger take over. Let it spill out in front of kids who trusted him, who looked up to him. He finished the class, barely, went through the motions, sent everyone home. Then he sat alone in the empty gym with his head in his hands. He'd promised himself he'd never be his father, never let the violence leak out, never let kids see that rage. And tonight he'd failed. He sat there for an hour, maybe more. The lights hummed overhead. The heavy bag swayed slightly in a draft. He heard the door open. Footsteps. Light. Careful. Ursula, she'd been doing homework in the office. Must have heard everything. She walked over, sat down next to him on the mat. Didn't say anything at first. Just sat. Finally, Dom spoke. I screwed up, he said. I know. I yelled at him. I lost it. I heard. Dom looked at her. I'm turning into Grandpa Frank. Iris shook her head. No, you're not. You didn't see him. You don't know what he was like. You're right. I didn't know him, but I know you. She turned to face him, held his gaze. Grandpa Frank hurt people who loved him. You protect people who need you. That's not the same thing. I just yelled at a kid who trusted me. Yeah, and tomorrow you'll apologize. You'll make it right. That's what makes you different. Dom felt his throat tighten. Mom told me something once, Iris said, before she died. She told me that you fight your demons every day, that you carry Grandpa Frank's anger in your blood, but you choose not to let it win. She said that's what makes you strong, not that you don't have the darkness, but that you fight it. Dom closed his eyes, felt tears leak out. Everyone makes mistakes, Iris said. Strong people fix them. She put her hand on his shoulder. Same way she had in the truck 7 years ago. Same gentle pressure, same quiet support. Just fix it tomorrow, Daddy. Dom nodded, couldn't trust his voice. Iris stood up, went back to the office to finish her homework. Dom sat there alone for another hour. Then he got up, turned off the lights, locked the door, went home. The next morning he called Jake's parents, apologized, asked if he could speak to Jake. Jake's mom said Jake didn't want to talk to him. Dom understood, but he asked her to pass on a message anyway. Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I was wrong. Tell him he's welcome back anytime. No judgment, no conditions. Jake's mom said she'd tell him. Jake didn't come back that week, or the next. Dom didn't push, just left the door open. 3 weeks later, Jake showed up, knocked on the gym door during evening class. Dom answered. Jake stood there, hands in his pockets, looking at his shoes. I'm sorry I was disrespectful, he said. Dom shook his head. I'm the one who should be sorry. I lost my temper. That was wrong. I shouldn't have yelled at you. Jake looked up, surprised. I teach you guys that control is everything, Dom said. That a real fighter never loses his cool. Then I turned around and did exactly that. I failed you, and I'm sorry. Jake was quiet for a moment. Can I come back, he asked. Dom smiled. Yeah, you can come back. Jake came to class that night, and every night after. Focused, disciplined, no more phone, and Dom learned something. Admitting you're wrong doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. And sometimes being human is harder than being strong. Iris watched the whole thing play out. Didn't say much about it, just observed. The way she always did. But one night at dinner, she said, I'm proud of you. Dom looked up from his plate. For what? For being brave enough to say you were wrong. Dom felt something warm spread through his chest. Thanks, baby. They ate in comfortable silence. The sound of forks on plates. The distant rhythm of the ocean 3 blocks away. After dinner, Iris did her homework at the kitchen table. Dom cleaned up, washed dishes, dried them, put them away. Normal, quiet, good. When Iris finished her homework, she came over, hugged him from behind while he was putting away the last plate. I love you, Daddy. Dom turned around, hugged her properly. I love you too, baby. More than you know. She pulled back, looked up at him with Claire's eyes. I know, she said. Mom told me you would. She said you'd never stop fighting for me. She said that's what real love looks like. Dom's vision blurred. No, when did she tell you that? The night before she died. She came into my room, sat on my bed, told me a lot of things. What else did she say? Iris smiled. That the quiet ones are the strongest. That you don't have to fill every silence. That love isn't loud. It's steady. It's showing up every day even when it's hard. She paused. She said you'd show me what that looks like, and you have. Dom pulled her close again, held her tight, felt her frame against his chest. Not so small anymore. She was growing up, becoming her own person, but still his daughter. Still the little girl who'd sat in that diner booth and said, don't talk, Daddy, with perfect faith that he'd know what to do. That night after Iris went to bed, Dom sat on the porch of the Red Door house, looking at the stars, listening to the ocean. He thought about the last 7 years, the gym, the students, the slow process of building a life that mattered. He thought about Frank, about the cycle of violence he'd been terrified of continuing, about the nights he'd lie awake wondering if he had his father's rage buried somewhere deep, wondering if it would surface, wondering if he'd hurt someone he loved. But he hadn't. He'd yelled once, lost his temper, but he'd caught it, recognized it, made it right. That was the difference. Frank never made it right. Frank just kept going, kept hurting, kept drinking and fighting and destroying everything he touched. Dom had broken the cycle. Not perfectly, not without mistakes, but he'd broken it. And Iris was proof. She was growing up strong and whole and kind. She hadn't inherited the violence, hadn't learned to solve problems with fists. She'd learned to solve them with patience, with observation, with carefully chosen words that carried weight because she didn't waste them. Dom looked at the photo of Claire he kept on the porch, same one Iris had hung in the living room. Claire smiling, happy, alive. I kept my promise, he whispered. Our girl's strong. She's going to be okay. The wind picked up, brought the smell of salt and sand, the sound of waves. Dom sat there until late, thinking, remembering, grateful. The next Saturday, a woman came to the gym, early 30s, nervous, holding the hand of a small girl, maybe 7 years old, blonde hair, big eyes, scared. The woman approached Dom. Are you Dominic Carver? Yeah, I've heard about this place, about what you teach. Dom nodded. Self-defense, confidence, awareness. The woman looked down at her daughter. This is Ava. She's being bullied at school. The other kids push her. Call her names. She's scared to go. Dom knelt down, looked at Ava. Hi, Ava. Ava didn't respond, just looked at the floor. It's okay, Dom said. You don't have to talk if you don't want to. He stood up, looked at the mother. She can start today if she wants. First class is free. See if she likes it. The mother nodded, grateful. Iris was in the office. Dom called her over. Iris, can you come here? Iris walked over. She was wearing a quiet room t-shirt, hair pulled back. She looked at Ava and something passed across her face. Recognition, maybe. Not of the girl, but of what the girl was feeling. This is Ava, Dom said. She's new. Can you show her around? Iris nodded. She knelt down next to Ava. Eye level. Hi, Ava. I'm Iris. Ava looked at her, didn't speak. You don't talk much, do you? Iris said. Ava shook her head. Me neither. That's okay. You don't have to. Iris stood up, held out her hand. Ava took it. Come on. I'll show you how we do things here. She led Ava away, showed her the mats, the heavy bag, the equipment. Dom watched them, saw Iris kneel down again, saw her talking quietly, saw Ava listening, not smiling yet, but present, engaged. The mother stood next to Dom. I don't know how to help her. She used to talk all the time. Now she barely says 10 words a day. Dom nodded. My daughter was the same way, after her mom died. The woman looked at him. How did you help her? I didn't, Dom said. Not really, I just gave her space. Let her know it was okay to be quiet. Showed her that silence can be strength. The woman watched Iris and Ava. Did she ever start talking again? Yeah. When she was ready, when she had something worth saying. Ava came to class that day, and the next week, and the week after. She did not talk much, but she watched. She learned. And slowly over months, she started to open up. Iris worked with her, one-on-one sometimes. Showed her basic stances, how to block, how to move. Never pushed her to talk. Never made her feel like her silence was wrong. Just gave her tools, and space, and time. Dom watched Iris teach and saw Claire, saw the patience, the empathy, the understanding that healing isn't loud. It's quiet. It's showing up. It's being present. 6 months later, Ava's mother came to talk to Dom. I don't know what you're doing here, she said, but it's working. Ava talks now, not all the time, but more. And she's standing up for herself at school. Dom smiled. That's not me. That's Iris. And it's Ava. She was always strong. She just needed to remember. The woman's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, both of you. After she left, Iris came over. That felt good, she said. Helping Ava? Yeah, I remember what it was like. Being that scared, that quiet. You helped her see she didn't need to change who she is. Iris shook her head. No, I helped her see that she didn't need permission to use her voice. Just the confidence that when she did, people would listen. Dom looked at his daughter, 14 years old. Wise beyond her years. Your mom would be so proud of you. Iris smiled. I know. She told me she would be. That night, Dom and Iris had dinner at home. Spaghetti, garlic bread, simple. Iris talked about school, about her friends, about a boy named Ryan who'd asked her to homecoming. You going to go? Dom asked. Iris shrugged. Maybe. I don't know if I like him like that, but it might be fun. Dom felt a pang. His little girl, growing up, dating, becoming independent. But it was good. It was right. This was what Claire wanted, for Iris to be whole, to be happy, to live. After dinner, they sat on the porch, the red door behind them, the ocean sound in front of them. Iris had her sketchbook, drawing something. Dom couldn't see what. What are you working on? He asked. A house. Another red door. Iris shook her head. Not this time. This one has a blue door. Dom smiled. Why blue? Because I'm not looking for home anymore. I already found it. Now I'm just drawing what I like. She showed him the sketch. A small cottage, garden in front, blue door, a tree with a swing. It's beautiful, Dom said. Thanks. They sat in silence, comfortable, complete. Then Iris said, do you ever miss fighting? Dom thought about it, honestly. Sometimes. Not the violence, but the clarity. In the ring, everything was simple. Win or lose, no gray area. Do you regret retiring? No, not for a second. Walking away gave me you, gave me time with your mom, gave me this life. I wouldn't trade that for anything. Even 3 world titles. Even that. Iris nodded, went back to her drawing. Dom looked at the stars, thought about the path that brought him here. The fights, the championships, the loss, the grief, the diner, the desert, the gas station, Cade bleeding on the gravel. All of it had led to this, a quiet porch, a red door, a daughter who understood that strength doesn't announce itself. What are you thinking about, Iris asked. Your mom, the night at the gas station. How everything that's happened brought us here. Do you think mom planned it? Planned what? All of it. Teaching me to be quiet, telling me about strength, making sure I knew how to help you when you needed it. Dom looked at her. I think your mom was smarter than both of us. I think she knew exactly what she was doing. Iris smiled. Yeah, me too. She closed her sketchbook, stood up. I'm going to bed. Love you, Daddy. Love you too, baby. She went inside. Dom stayed on the porch. He thought about Vince, wondered if the old biker was still alive, still running the Reapers, still carrying the weight of his own failed fatherhood. He thought about Cade, hoped the guy was okay, hoped he'd found his own peace. He thought about Jake, about losing his temper, about learning to be better. He thought about all the kids he'd taught, 50 of them now, each one learning that they didn't have to be loud to be strong. That quiet observation was a superpower, that controlling yourself was harder and more important than controlling someone else. And he thought about Frank, about the cycle that could have continued, about the darkness he carried in his blood, but didn't let win. Dom sat there until midnight. Then he went inside, checked on Iris. She was asleep, peaceful, her sketchbook on the nightstand, the blue door house visible on the open page. He went to his own room, looked at the photo of Claire on his dresser. I'm not Frank, he whispered. I'm better. Because of you. Because of her. He got into bed, closed his eyes, and for the first time in as long as he could remember, Dominic Carver slept without nightmares. The years continued to pass. Iris graduated high school, got accepted to Cal State Long Beach, art therapy program, full scholarship. Dom cried when she told him. Happy tears, proud tears. She moved into the dorms but came home every weekend, helped at the gym, mentored younger kids, especially the quiet ones, the ones who'd lost parents or been through trauma, the ones who needed to know that silence was okay. The quiet room became something of a local institution, news articles, community awards, parents bringing their kids from 3 cities over because they'd heard what Dom was building. Dom never advertised, never promoted, just kept teaching, kept showing up, kept giving kids the tools they needed to be strong. One Saturday afternoon, 7 years after that night in the desert, an older man walked into the gym. Dom was teaching a class, didn't notice him at first. When class ended, the man approached. Dominic Carver. Dom turned. Yeah. The man held out his hand. My name's Vincent Maddox. We met once, long time ago. Dom's breath caught. Vince, older now, grayer, thinner, but the same wire-rimmed glasses, the same calm presence. They shook hands. I was in the area, Vince said. Thought I'd stop by, see what you built. Dom gestured around. This is it, the quiet room. Vince looked around, took in the mats, the students packing up, the name painted on the wall. It's good, he said. Really good. Thanks. They stood there for a moment. 2 men who'd met under very different circumstances. I wanted to apologize, Vince said, for that night, for putting you in that position. Dom shook his head. You gave me a fair fight, kept your word. Let us go. Nothing to apologize for. Still, it was wrong. I was testing myself against you, using my club to justify it. That wasn't right. We both got what we needed that night. Vince smiled. Yeah, I guess we did. He paused. I left the Reapers 2 years after we met. Tried to reconnect with my daughter. Took time. But we talk now, not often, but enough. Dom felt something warm in his chest. I'm glad, your daughter Vince said. How is she? She's good. In college. Studying art therapy. Wants to help kids who've been through what she went through. That's good. That's real good. Vince looked around again. You did it right. Built something that matters. Made a difference. Tried to. You did more than trying to. Vince pulled out his wallet. took out a card, handed it to Dom. If you ever need anything, a guest speaker for the kids, someone to tell them what the wrong path looks like, give me a call. Dom took the card. Thanks, I will. Vince nodded, started to leave, then turned back. That night in the desert. You fought like a man with everything to lose. I respected that. Still do. Dom nodded, didn't trust his voice. Vince left. Dom stood there holding the card, thinking about paths, about choices, about how one night can change everything. Iris came in from the office. Who was that? Dom looked at her. An old friend. From before, yeah. From before. Iris studied his face. You okay? Yeah, baby, I'm okay. That night, Dom told Iris the whole story. The diner, the chase, the fight with Cade, Vince's proposition. All of it. She listened without interrupting, the way she always did. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "You did that for me. I did. You could have walked away, left the truck, left everything. Not you. I would never leave you." Iris's eyes filled with tears. I know. She hugged him, tight. Thank you, Daddy, for protecting me, for keeping me safe, for being strong when I needed you to be. Dom held her, his daughter, his purpose, his reason. You made me strong, he said. Before that night I was drifting. After I had direction, you gave me that. They held each other for a long time. When they pulled apart, Iris wiped her eyes. Mom knew, she said. She knew you'd protect me. She knew you'd figure it out. Yeah, she did. Do you think she's proud? Dom looked at the picture on the wall, Claire smiling. Forever young, forever present. Yeah, baby, I think she's proud of both of us. More years passed. Iris graduated college, started working at a youth counseling center, helping kids process grief, trauma, loss. She was brilliant at it, patient, empathetic, willing to sit in silence with kids who weren't ready to talk. Dom watched her become the person she was always meant to be. The quiet room continued to grow. 80 students now. Dom had hired 2 more instructors, good people, former fighters who understood the philosophy. It wasn't about creating warriors, it was about creating awareness, confidence, the knowledge that you could protect yourself if needed. But that avoiding conflict was always the first choice. Dom was 50 now, gray at the temples, slower than he used to be, but still strong, still teaching, still showing up. One evening after class, a young man approached him, maybe 25, tattoos, nervous energy. Are you Dominic Carver, the fighter I was? Long time ago. The young man smiled. I've watched all your fights on YouTube, the Sao Paulo knockout, the Tokyo decision. All of it, Dom nodded. That was a different life. Why'd you quit? You were in your prime. Dom thought about how to answer that. I promised someone I loved that I'd walk away before the sport broke me, and I kept that promise. Was it worth it? Dom looked around the gym, at the kids laughing, at the parents watching, at Iris in the office doing paperwork. Yeah, it was worth it. The young man nodded, seemed to understand. Can I train here? You want to learn to fight? The young man shook his head. I want to learn to control myself, to be strong without being violent. That's what everyone says you teach. Dom smiled. Yeah, that's what we teach. The young man joined, came to every class, learned, grew, became one of the senior students. And Dom kept teaching, kept building, kept showing kids that the quiet ones are often the strongest. One night, 10 years after arriving in Santa Monica, Dom sat on his porch, the red door behind him, the ocean sound in front. Iris was inside. She'd moved back home after college, saving money, planning her next move. She came out with 2 beers, handed one to Dom. When did you start drinking beer? He asked. I'm 24, Dad. I've been legal for 3 years. Dom smiled. Fair point. They sat in silence, sipping beer, listening to the waves. I've been thinking, Iris said, about moving out, getting my own place. Dom felt a pang, but also pride. This was right. This was what was supposed to happen. Were you thinking? Not far, maybe Silver Lake. There's a counseling center there that wants to hire me. That's great, baby. You okay with it? Iris, you're 24. You should have your own life, your own space, I know. But I wanted to make sure you'd be okay. Dom looked at her. I've been okay for a long time now, because of you. But yeah, I'll be fine. Iris smiled. Okay, good. She paused. Will you help me move? Of course, 2 months later, Dom helped Iris move into a small apartment in Silver Lake, 1 bedroom. Hardwood floors, big windows. She'd painted the door. Red, of course. Dom helped her unpack, hang pictures, set up furniture. When they finished, Iris made coffee. They sat on her balcony, looking at the city. Thanks, Dad, for everything. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. You gave up everything for me. Your career, your grief, everything. I didn't give it up. I chose you. Big difference. Iris leaned her head on his shoulder. I love you, Daddy. Love you too, baby. Dom drove home that evening. The house felt empty, quiet in a different way. But it was okay. This was part of it. Letting go, trusting that he'd raised her right, that she'd be okay. He sat on the porch, looking at the red door. He thought about Claire, about that last promise. Don't let her go quiet. Don't let her be afraid. He'd kept it. Iris wasn't afraid. She'd found her voice, used it when it mattered, held it back when it didn't. She was strong, whole, happy. And Dom had kept his other promise too, the one he'd made to himself. He hadn't become Frank, hadn't let the violence win, hadn't hurt the people he loved. He'd broken the cycle, and in doing so, he'd built something better, something that would outlast him. The quiet room, the students, the lessons. But most of all, Iris. She was his legacy, his proof that a man could carry darkness in his blood and still choose light. Dom sat there until the stars came out, until the ocean sound blended with the night, until he felt Claire's presence settle over him like a blanket. I did it, he whispered. Just like you asked. I kept her safe, kept her strong, kept her whole. The wind picked up, warm, gentle, and somewhere in that wind, Dominic Carver heard his wife's voice. I know, she said. I've been watching. He smiled, closed his eyes, let the peace wash over him. Some men spend their lives running from their fathers. Some men spend their lives becoming them. Dominic Carver spent his becoming everything his father wasn't. 20 years after that night in the desert, Dom stood in the quiet room, watching a new class. 80 kids, ages 7 to 16, all learning the same lesson. Silence isn't weakness, it's power. The door opened. Iris walked in. 34 now, director of the Youth Counseling Center in Silver Lake. Wedding ring on her finger. 6 months pregnant. Her hand rested on the curve of her belly. She crossed the room, hugged her father. How are you feeling, Dom asked. Good, tired, but good. And the baby strong, like her grandma. You know it's a girl, Iris smiled. I know. What are you going to name her? Iris held his gaze. Those eyes so much like Claire's. Claire, after Mom. Dom's throat tightened. She would have loved that. I know, Iris paused. And Dad, when she's old enough, I'm going to teach her what you taught me. What's that? That the quiet ones see everything. That love isn't loud, it's showing up. That strength isn't about fighting, it's about protecting the people who matter. She squeezed his hand, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Dom pulled her close. His daughter, his legacy, proof that a man could carry darkness and still choose light. Outside 3 blocks away, the Pacific Ocean breathed against the shore. Steady, eternal. The same sound Claire grew up hearing. The same sound Iris fell asleep to. The same sound little Claire would hear. In a small house with a red door, a retired fighter had built a life that mattered. Not with his fists, with his choices. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.